Okay, today is our project, our year project that we've been working on about metabolomics.
It's comparing omega-6 to omega-3 ratios in different kinds of meat diets.
We got grass-fed bison to corn-fed bison. Are comparing them.
The omega-6 to omega-3 ratios.
The buffalo we got were from the Crow tribe. We got 2 of them. Their buffalo herd is in Crow, or actually in the mountains, and they got some buffalo in Crow. We got 3 more from St. Lebray's buffalo herd also, and we got the corn-finished bison from Ted Turner.
And we got 2 more, which are corn-fed beef and grass-fed beef from Walmart.
Our first hypothesis was the grass-fed buffalo will have a lower ratio of omega-6s than omega-3s.
And our second one is we will find more equal omega-6, omega-3 ratios in the cell membranes of the grass-fed buffalo and beef.
And our third one, we will find unbalanced omega-6s and omega-3 ratio in all the corn-fed samples.
Our procedure is, the first thing was to freeze the meat samples in liquid nitrogen. The meat was chipped off and ground in a mortar and pestle.
We add potassium chloride to each sample, centrifuge it for 2 minutes at 5,000 RPMs. The completion of these first 6 steps extracts the fatty lipids from the muscle samples. They froze the meat and we got paper thin samples of the meat.
And this one is they put the meat in a dish which is surrounded by liquid nitrogen.
We grinded the meat samples with mortar and pestle. The reason why we put it in liquid nitrogen was so that when we ground it up, it would break the cell membrane. As you can see there, you can see the cell membranes in the little glass bottle.
And we also removed the organic lower layer to a new vial and dried under a liquid nitrogen stream.
This part of the procedure is conducted under a ventilation hood in the lab to pull the chloroform and the methanol solvents out of the lab for safety.
Okay.
For the long omega-6 and omega-3s, the average was 1.4.
And the average of the short omega-6, omega-3 fatty acids were 3.3.
We took an average of 15 different bison samples. The meat came from ribs, sirloin, and the hump. The total omega-6 and omega-3 ratio was 2.3.
And the long chain omega-6, omega-3 was 1.4.
And the short chain was 3.3. The difference between grass-fed and corn-fed buffalo of the omega-6 and omega-3 ratios was that with the short chain, the one that's important, they were the corn-fed was about 6 times higher, which made it way unhealthy. And the total was 2.3, and the corn-fed was 8.4. Long chain was 1.4, or the grass-fed long chain was 1.4, and the corn-fed bison long chain was 3.7.
The difference between grass-fed and corn-fed beef O6, O3 ratios. The total 06-03 was 1.5, and of the corn-fed beef, total was 13.7. And the grass-fed beef long chain was 0.9, and corn-fed was 4.1.
The short chain of the grass beef was 12.1 or 2.1, and corn-fed beef was about 28 times higher, which was 56.6. Our hypothesis was, for the bison, was grass to corn difference would be 6 times higher.
And the cows, grass to corn difference 28 times higher.
We think the cow was fed corn longer than the bison. If a bison was fed corn for a longer time, it too would start to show the super high imbalance. This would need further research.
How long was the cow fed corn? We know the bison were switched to corn for 3 months. So for 3 months, it would be 6 times the ratio.
And for 6 months, it'd be 12 times the ratio. And for 12 months, it'd be 24 times the ratio. We think the cow was fed corn for about 1 year.
An additional fact, we know that it takes red blood cells about 3 months to completely change themselves out. During that time, if you're feeding corn, the red blood cells, rebuild themselves out of the omega-6 fatty acids.
That's why we're seeing such high ratios. Metabolomics really does show that what we eat affects our body and chemistry. Conclusion. From this experiment, we learned that corn-finished bison, beef has a less balanced omega-6, omega-3 ratio, which is also unhealthy because it causes inflammation.
And inflammation is linked to coronary heart disease and many other diseases.
Think about all the other food that can be affected by animals eating corn or other high omega-6 plants or oils. For example, milk, other dairy products, eggs, chickens, and farmed fish could all have more omega-6 than we realized. Maybe our experiment can change people's thinking. And lastly, a big thank you. We would like to thank all the people that did the hard laboratory work to test our hypothesis. Thank you, Dr. Ed Dratz, Jenny Eller, John Hallett, and the others who helped out.
Go back. Where do you want to go? Oh, there they are.
You guys can stop screen sharing at the top of the screen. There should be a. There you go.
Good work.
Excellent.
Yeah, spectacular. This is publishable.
Yeah, that's.
So first of all, you should think about publishing this. I'm sure Dr. Durat can help you out there, right?
Yeah.
Just one comment is we were kind of surprised the beef was quite that bad because corn itself is only like 47 to 1. They got 56. So we've now collected 6 other beef samples from other stores, and Jenny and Carl have worked them up, and they're just about to put them in the machine to measure. So we'll see how different the different beef samples. These are all corn-fed beef. And we also did you do a few chicken too?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. So we have one supposedly free-range chicken and a couple of samples of commercial chicken. And the chickens are supposed to be even worse than the beef. So we don't know, but you guys did a nice job with that.
That was excellent.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Really good, and your presentation was great. It was very clear what you did.
So do you guys have plans to enter this in any of the state science fairs? Because this is on the top.
We missed it, and for the end of the year, we're gonna be going to a movie theater that we're gonna rent and share it with tribal officials. Some of them.
Invite me.
Say again.
It's not Mr. Joyce. Is that during the film thing that we're doing with the other project, the sci-fi project?
Yeah, we're gonna invite some tribal members, and in addition to the whole school, they're gonna represent their project to the school and the tribal members, just to make them aware of, what the buffalo, that is good meat,
The other thing, it would be great if you could invite representatives from local co-ops, like from Bozeman's co-op. I'm sure people in the co-op groups in the other major cities would be really interested in this too.
I had one quick question. Was the grass-fed bison ratio way better than the cow grass-fed ratio? I couldn't, I want to compare the bison grass-fed to cow grass-fed. Which one is way better, or were they kind of both similar?
They're about the same.
And you also had some lamb, right, and a deer?
Yeah, we didn't put that in there though.
How those work?
You're muted.
The ratios for the lamb were 1.26, 2.6, or 2.6, 1.8. For the white-tailed deer was 1.48, 2.75, and 2.34.
All the grass-fed animals were pretty similar.
They're pretty low.
Yeah.
Nice.
Just the bison are bigger, so there's more to eat. All the grass-fed ones, yeah. All the grass-fed ones.
So they found it really interesting that in a space of about 3 months for a bison, or 6 months to a year for a cow, you can completely change the chemistry of the animal just by what you feed it. And that's pretty interesting finding. They want to try to figure out how fast that actually happens.
They probably can find some of that data in the literature. And if you just can't find it, I can probably find it for you, but it'd be better if you looked.
What's that for humans, Ed? Do you know?
Well, with humans, it's similar.
About
It's
3
similar.
months?
Yeah, similar.
3 months?
Well, it's
Corn-finished football players.
there's a lot more data on the animals than there is on humans, actually. But it takes a while for the humans to switch.
So based on your the data that you had, you projected out that you thought the cows were fed for about a year, and I was looking at a little bit of literature, and a lot of cows get fed about 140 days before they're slaughtered, while some of the concentrated animal feeding operations have them up to 300 days on corn. So I imagine like really, really large producers are very likely almost feeding them for a year, or 10 months at least.
They get more weight gain.
Yeah, but the other big thing I think affects the rate at which it changes in total is how long bison take to get to maturity versus how fast cows get to maturity, because they slaughter cows by like around 13, 14 months, whereas I think that the bison don't get slaughtered until after 2 years plus. So I think time and weight, and you guys did a great job.
Yeah, one of the big deals, I think, is that the same kind of effects happen with people. Right? So that depending on what you eat, it's going to change your own fatty acids, which will change your susceptibility to disease and change how well your brain works.
And are you going to try to help them get this published?
Sure, we're going to see how the other other beef data, so we'll have a big data set of beef and some chicken, and then we'll see. Yeah, I think so. Probably the data so far looks good. The error bars are really pretty small between, they collected hump and rib and steak, right, from 5 animals, and so we've got a lot of data, and they all look pretty similar.
That's awesome.
And there isn't much data on bison out there.
Let's get them published.
One more question.
So, Ed, you were saying that corn has a ratio of about 46:1.
Yeah.
Is that feed corn or?
That's pretty much any corn.
Any corn?
Yeah. I mean, the common corn that's raised, there might be some variation. But almost all the corn that's grown in the United States is the same type.
Gotcha.
So is there any way conceivable that you could ever get better bacon, the closer omega-3 to omega-6?
Well, you might have to raise it yourself, I'm not sure.
How would you do it? Because what do they eat? They won't eat grass.
Oh, sure. They'll eat anything they can get. Yeah. Yeah. They'll eat anything they can get.
Well, I want you guys to try and make me some great bacon.
Yeah.
That'd be it.
Grass-fed.
Oh, man.
Bacon. We certainly couldn't feed them on human garbage. Probably,
Yeah, right. That's what I'm saying.
human garbage is going to have a bad ratio.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, but that's not good.
Anybody else?
I hope you look for lots of places to do your presentation because it's really very good. And I think you'd be surprised. I bet there's a lot of people that would be interested in what you have done and what you found. So
Plus, in marketing,
Keep after
tribal
it.
bison. That could be a unbelievable, plus ultra startup company. You guys could be bison moguls in a couple of years.
Oh, you guys could show it next year, because you're moving on to the high school next year, right? Are you going to Hardin High next year?
They both say they're going to St. Lebray, and I am in the process of talking with their science teacher about continuing.
Very good.
Okay, great.
Yay.
Great job,
Yeah,
guys.
good job.